Hello, 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 hello. We are live for Pixel Chatter number 22. How awesome is that? Pixel Chatter number 22. Just tighten up my mic there. There we go. Well, happy Saturday to everybody, or Friday night, or whatever it is for you, where you are in the world. This is Pixel Chatter number 22. Thanks for joining me. Can't wait to get stuck into today's show. Got some exciting stuff happening. We are going to take a look at a viewer's camera kit. Ren Thielen has sent me in his kit. We'll have a look at that and see what's in there. I'm going to give you a Lightroom tip that not many people know about, but it's right in your face. Something you've probably seen before, believe it or not. And we are going to get stuck into 3 image critiques as well. So taking a look at 3 images sent in by viewers. We've got a couple of new people have sent in their images too, so good on you for being brave. Lillian Sealer has sent in some images, even though I think she felt it was too early. But Chance is encouraged her to do that, so good stuff. Ren Thielen, who sent some in the past, we've got his, and Dan McPhail from up in Brisbane. So we've got one of his images as well today. All right, let's just jump into the chat box and see who is hanging out with us. All right, who have we got there? Damon Force Gaming, g'day. Chance, good morning. John from Liverpool, g'day, John. Is that Liverpool in Sydney or Liverpool in the UK? Which Liverpool is that? G'day, Susan. Hey, Spanner. We got Gianni, how you going? We've got Brian, g'day, Brian. We've got Greg. We've got cool pics from Louisiana, USA. Anthony, good morning, Anthony. I heard a rumour, Anthony, that you might be coming to Tassie with me. Is that true? Is that true? I think there's only a couple of spots left. D just jumped in. D, can't watch for long, but just wanted to say thanks for your recommendation with the shutter remote from one of your other vids. Hey, you're welcome. It's amazing how many people have bought that remote because of my suggestion. So I think I should be telling that remote company that I should be an ambassador or something. It's a great remote. Like I said, I'm on my second one and I really like it. And if you've got a Nikon camera and you don't know what we're talking about, jump into my YouTube videos later and just check out the one there that I did on, I think it's titled, "Is this the best remote for your Nikon DSLR?" And it is a beauty. It is a beauty. It's the one that I use. You see me using it all the time in all my videos. Raimi 43J from Scotland, Glasgow. Good day. John's from the land of good football. We call that soccer over here. I know, aren't we? Blasphemy, blasphemy. Oh, okay, Anthony. No one's supposed to know. All right. It's top secret. Top secret. Well, I hope I see you there. Yeah, top secret. And Lily's with you today, Chance. Excellent. G'day, Lily. Got one of your images. In fact, we've got a bit of a theme in our images today, which is sort of like into the sun. So I've got 3 images that are shot into the sun, which really starts to silhouette some of the details. So we're going to have a look at those. We're going to have a look. Alrighty. Wow. D says, yeah, that's great. You should indeed. There's 2 prices on the UK Amazon. One of them 60 quid and one is 178 quid. I know what I'd rather. Good morning, Kyle from New Zealand. Nidin from the land of igloos, Canada. I went to Canada once. My gosh, it was cold. I went there in the winter. It was minus 38 degrees Celsius. How is that even possible? It was freezing. Big Oz, good morning. All right, let's get stuck into the show. I'll keep an eye on the chat box as we go through. Well, if you missed last week's episode was the first time that I had featured a viewer's shot kit. And I'm using the word shot kit probably under license from my friend Mark, who runs shotkit.com, even though he doesn't know I'm doing it. It's not my word. I didn't make it up. Mark's a great guy, and he started this website called shotkit.com where he features photographers' kits and what's in their kit, and you know, what sort of genre of photography they shoot, and you can have a look at what gear they use. And I thought it was kind of cool, so I decided to incorporate it into Pixel Chatter each week. So as a viewer, you can send your shot kit in, and we'll go through what is in there and why you have it. So this week's shot kit is sent in for me by Ren Thielen. Now Ren is over in WA. I was really lucky to meet Ren, in fact, when I was over there. And I've still got quite a few of my videos to upload from my WA chip. I haven't had a lot of time lately to do the editing side. It's been kind of crazy in my world. But I'm going to make a real effort to get one out a week now until Christmas. And then over the Christmas break, I'm going to do my best to get some out. In fact, I'll do my best to get one out a week, but I'm going to also be in Fiji for a couple of weeks on holiday, so there'll be nothing happening then. All right, so here's Ren's kit. As you can see, he's laid it out on his decking. You can take your photograph any way you want, but one photograph with as much as your kit in it as possible. You don't have to get it all in. And get creative. I want to see how creative you can get with taking a photo of your photography kit. And it's going to depend. If you've only got one camera, you're going to have to use your iPhone or your Samsung or Google, whatever, Windows Phone, whatever you've got. Most of those have got a good enough camera in them to take a great shot. So in Ren's here, he's got a Nikon D7200. Now, Ren takes some great photos, and I think, you know, a lot of the people that are sending in their images for critique have got crop sensors, and so it just shows you don't need to have a big, expensive, full-frame camera to get great shots. So Ren shoots with a 7200, and he said his main lens is an 18 to 35 1.8 f, 1.8 to 1 to 16 art lens. So that's the art series lens that Sigma makes. He's got a 55 to 300 Nikon lens as well, which is the G lens. What else have we got in here? 135mm lens. I've seen him mucking around with that. Wow, that's an amazing lens, that. You're a 135mm lens. Good, that's a really good portrait lens, that. He's got 200mm lens and then a 50mm as well, 1.8. Teleconverter. Some extension tubes as well that he uses for macro. Seen some of those shots, looks good. A range of ND filters. He's got a compass in there, that's cool, and just in case you get lost, I guess. And a slick tripod, the SLIK tripod. Wonder how you find that, Ren. I've heard they're pretty good. Other stuff for cleaning lenses, cotton bud shoulder bag, and has a water-resistant cover for wet days. So there you go, there's Ren Thielen's shot kit. And as I said, go to markshotkit.com, which is sort of a free plug for Mark, because I'm using his Word shot kit, but I think it's a great description of the kit. And that's Ren's kit right there. So it gives you a sort of an idea. Now, I've lost my pop-up chat, funnily enough. I'm going to see if I can get that back. There it is. Funny things happen sometimes. Funny things happen in this software. Let me just make a quick adjustment to the size of a window so I can find it. There it is. All right. So, thanks for sending that in, Ren. G'day, Ken. Good to have you on board. Coolpic's got a D810 and a 7200. Excellent. So best of both worlds. Because there are times when a crop sensor is actually better. I mean, I've got my Fujis, and you know, when you stick a lens on those, you're actually getting a zoom effect, really. And of course, I'm drinking out of my my Pixel Chatter cup that was sent in by Scott. Beautiful stuff. All right, nice warm coffee. So let's get stuck straight into a Lightroom tip. What I'm going to show you today is a Lightroom tip that I think many people don't know exists. And I know that sounds kind of funny, so I'm going to show you a way of doing this. I need to find the right images. All right, let's jump into Lightroom quickly so I can show you this. The thing about this tip is I've shown many people this, and they see me editing. When someone's sitting with me and I'm editing, and they see me do it, they go, "Ah, didn't know that exists." Now this photo here is of a place down south of Sydney called Bombo Quarry, very popular for photographers. I did do a couple of vlogs here, so you might have seen this location in vlogs. Now, whenever I'm doing photography at a location like this, once I'm set up, quite often I'll take a lot of shots of the same thing. So if I go to the library, let's jump into the library quick. I'm in the develop module. So if I go to the library, you'll see there's many shots of the same thing. Now you might be wondering, why do you do that? Well, the reason I do that is because in each shot the water's doing something different. Okay, so you'll see I might take down here. The light might be changing. Plenty of things are happening. Okay. So this is just some that I haven't processed yet. And they'll probably never get processed except for this example I'm about to show you. So what I typically do then is I want to pick which one I like the best, but I need to process one to do that. And so if we go into the develop module, which I'll do now, I'm jumping into the develop module. I'll get my image and then I'll start doing my developing. Now this one here needs a bit of work. So typically in this one here, I'm going to bring the highlights down to settle that sky down. Let's do that. I'll bring the shadows up. And this processing part's actually not part of the trick that I'm going to show you. This is just to give you an idea of what I can do. I'll adjust the whites and the blacks. Just so you can see what happens. I'll increase the clarity. In fact, what I'll do is I'll get an adjustment brush and I'll increase the clarity. God, I can't say that this morning. Clarity here on these rocks. Okay, so using my adjustment brush, adjusting the rocks, really making them pump and stand out. The other thing I'm going to do with now with that adjustment, that's a local adjustment, I'm going to actually just increase the exposure slightly on those rocks where I've made the adjustment, and I'm going to increase the temperature. Like so. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, if I'm done there, I can just, so I'm done, get rid of this brush edit. Oh. Things are playing up here for me. The computer's trying to process it, and what happens is everything becomes really jerky. Okay. Now if I use the backslash key, I can see the before and the after. So you can see that's the after and that's the before. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the next image in my series, and you'll see it's exactly the same image. So if I go back, this is the one I just did. And if I go, I'm just hitting the right arrow, which takes me to my next image. Slightly different composition, but very similar. Rather than going through and making all those basic adjustments again, including the adjustment brush where I put clarity, exposure, and warmed up the temperature on the, because that's what I did remember locally. Instead of doing that all again, I just come down the bottom here, and you see this previous button? I just click that. See how quickly that worked? And it applied it to that. And then I hit the right arrow again. I go to this one, and I hit the previous button. Now, if I go back to the library, I'm going to show you that I've just edited 3 images in a row. Okay, and you can just, if I want to do this one as well, but you see these 3, number 2, 3, and 4 have been processed. So let's do 5 and 6. So I'll go back into develop. I've selected 5. Okay, exactly the same image. I hit the previous button. Okay, and what it does, if you have a look up here at the local adjustments, it applies the exact same adjustments that I did to the previous one. And what it does is it just makes it super quick for you to just make some basic adjustments, because it's hard sometimes to preview images. Like I know for me, if I'm going to go through my images and try and choose the one I like, I need some processing done. So now that I've done that, I can actually come back into my library and I can have a look through all these images and decide which one I like the best. At least I've got them sort of processed. And I find so many people don't actually know that exists. And that button, let's have a quick look. That button is right in front of your face. It's always there. And it's just at the bottom of the develop menu. You see you've got a reset and a previous. Okay, that's what that previous button does, is it applies the adjustments you made to the previous image to the one that you're looking at. And it works really well. So there you go. That's my Lightroom tip today. Hopefully that saves you some time when you are processing. Does anybody here know about that adjustment? Interested to see how many people in the chat box have seen that one before and use it. But yeah, it's a very handy little adjustment. Alright, I'm just jumping into my other image critique folder, which we're going to need next. Alright, jump into the chat box. Yeah, how many people have been using that? Yeah, Tim's just pointed out that sync. We'll do that another week. Tim, sync will do the same thing. Now, sync is good, except as what you would have noticed in when I was doing that as I started doing going further down my images, I actually needed to make some more adjustments. So, because the sun was setting, right, so the light was changing. So sync will make them all the same like I did just then. But typically what I'll do is I'll press previous, and sometimes I might just tweak the exposure or something like that. And then I'll go to the next one and press previous. And what it does is it adds the previous one, not the first one. So I can work on a series of images really fast. Just basic adjustments. And the reason I do that is because I want to choose the one I'm going to work on. So the whole idea is just to bring out the details, just fix the lighting a bit. If it's got a lot of dynamic range, just some basic stuff. Or the other thing that you can do, let's say you have dust spots on your lens, so in your sensor, they're going to be in the exact same spot. So you can apply dust spot correction, and then you can sync that across all your images, or you can use that previous button, and it makes it super quick. So instead of having to go back into every image and remove the dust spots individually, you can just do it across all of them. Now you still need to make sure it doesn't do something weird sometimes with the healing brush tool, but it can work really well. Yes. All right, let's have a look. In the chat box, Anthony uses the copy paste settings. Yeah, you can do that as well. So you can right click, go to develop settings, copy develop settings, and then you can just choose what parts you want to copy. So that's better if you're doing more than just the basic adjustments. So in that example, I was just using that very first part of the develop panel, which is what I call sort of the basic, I think they call it basic adjustments. If you're going to do more than that, let's say you're cropping and you're doing, all sorts of wonderful color corrections, etc., you can actually right click and press copy develop settings, and it gives you the option of what you want to tick. We'll look at that at another Lightroom tip, but I know what you're talking about. The big guy says, a great feature. I take multiple shots as my camera doesn't stabilize. Yeah, it works well. Susan uses it. Struggling with the new gradient and radial in the new updated Lightroom Classic. I haven't updated mine yet. It's been asking me to, but I just haven't got there yet. Damon says you can right click on the image. Yep, we just talked about that. Yeah, so this previous button is just a super quick way to get those local adjustments across. Yeah. And the funny thing is that previous button's there. So many people that have seen me doing processing are like, I've never even seen anyone use that before. And it's in your face every time you develop an image. It's there. It's been there forever. You know how I worked out what it did? I actually just pressed it one day, and it made all these changes. And I went, oh, wonder where it's got those changes from. And then I worked out it's taken all the previous changes and applied them. So don't be afraid inside a Lightroom if you see something to just try it. You can't break anything. It's easy to undo stuff. All right, just enjoying my cuppa here. All right, now before we get into the image critique, I do want to encourage you, if you do have some images to send in, please do. Ben at On Three Legs, that's the word 3, ben at on3legs.com. Send your 3 images through. Typically, a few thousand pixels on the widest edge is good. Make sure the EXIF information's there, and a little bit of a story about the image also helps. So it gives me a bit of context when I'm talking about the image. I would love to get your images in. If you're not already a VIP, that is very important photographer, you can become one. You go across to on3legs.com/Patreon, Patreon, and for as little as $2 a month, you can join the VIP group. We have our own closed Facebook group where we're doing some fun stuff. People are sharing lots of stuff in there, and we'd love to see you there. So there you go. And on a final little plug before I jump into the critiques, we've also got my social media pipes that you can follow me on. Facebook and Instagram, relatively active on both of those. As I said, I've been super busy lately and struggling a little bit to keep up with everything at the moment. So I wish I was like some of these other YouTubers that do it full time, but I'm not quite there at the moment. I still have a business to run and a lot of other stuff going on as well. But a bit of renovating at home and it's keeping me busy. So I haven't had time to sit down because it takes about, when you record a vlog, it's one outing to record the vlog. It can take 5 hours just to edit one video, and then you've got to upload it to YouTube, etc. So it can be quite difficult to find the time sometimes. But that's enough of my excuses. I'll get onto it and get one out this week. That's what I promised to you. All right, Devin says, very handy to get those settings over to the other image for a start point. Yes, it is. Yes. All right. Anthony said, I didn't know about the previous button. I assumed it was the previous image. Yeah, that it would take you back. Yeah, I think they could probably, they probably should change the name of that button, shouldn't they? All right. We are jumping straight into critique time. Let's do it. All right, this week I've got 3 images in. The one on the left is from Ren Thielen. Ren, who we saw his shot kit earlier. Lillian's in the middle. Lillian Sealer, who is, I think, is the boss of Chance. We're going to go with that. And then on the very right, we have a photo here from Dan McPhail from Brisbane. And it's his first time sending one in. So we've got 2 first-timers to the critique section of Pixel Chatter this week. Thanks for sending these in. And I've sort of gone for a bit of a theme, as you can see. They're all into the sun and they're all sort of silhouetted. So, it can cost you a bit of detail. So we're going to have a look at that and see, what we could do to improve these images. So let's jump straight into this one here, which is Ren Thielen's image. And we're going to have a bit of a look around and see what we could have done to improve this image. First of all, I think it's a nice shot. Let's have a look at the technical details and then we'll come back and have a look at things like composition and then post-processing, if any. So he's shot this with his Nikon D7200, his 18 to 35mm lens, so his wide-angle lens, at f8, 1/80th of a second, so a relatively quick shutter speed, and ISO 100, so the lowest ISO that you can go. So that's good, all good. Now, when you're just a tip for you, by the way, it doesn't tell me here what your metering was in Lightroom, but you get some EXIF information, but you don't get the metering. When you're taking a landscape shot, some of the things that are important when you're shooting into the sun in particular, you've got a couple of options. And you're inside your cam, you've got typically 3 different metering modes. You've got spot metering, you've got center weighted metering, and then you've got matrix metering, or evaluative metering, I think is what Canon calls it. But essentially that takes an average across the entire scene. 5 quadrants typically, so 4 quadrants and 1 center spot. Center weighted simply, where the center of your image is where it sort of takes the exposure reading from, and then spot metering will take the reading off of whatever it is you put the spot inside your camera on. That little red square typically is what it will meter off. Now, I'm telling you this because it's really handy when you're shooting into the sun and you're trying to take a picture of a person, because I've seen a lot of people try to take photos of people with the sun behind them, and it works the same with objects in landscape. And what happens is that if you don't meter correctly, you'll just end up with a silhouette. Now, if you are going to shoot something into the sun and you need a faster shutter speed, you're going to have to use fill flash. So, for example, if you're going to take a portrait of somebody with the sunset behind them, you will need fill flash. And then you should be using spot metering because you want the fill flash to light up your subject. There's another curtain sync flash setting as well. We won't go into that today, but just when you are when you're taking shots, in particular where there's high dynamic range, i.e. shooting into the sun, make sure you check your metering mode because that can have a bit of an effect. Anyway, we'll jump back into the image here. Let's have a look. All right. So let's have a chat about this image. Big Guy says, nice shots. Cool. So a few things happening here. I think there's a little bit of distortion from this lens. And I don't know if you've tried to remove that or not Ren, so let's have a look. I just feel like it's a bit of a distortion. And what I mean by that, you can see there's a bit of a curve happening on the horizon. So just whenever you bring your photo into Lightroom, just click this Enable Profile Correction. As you can see, it hasn't selected the lens. It usually will if it's a raw image. Let's see if I can find this lens in here. We'll just go with the 14-24. Made it worse. Let's find something else. You can just play around sometimes. Certainly, I've picked the 16-35 because he shot this at 18mm, and it's done a good job. Let me try the 18-200 and see what that does. So when you can't find a profile to match, then you're just going to have to use this distortion. You can use this here to make adjustments. Or you can just go straight into this manual setting here and just remove the distortion. I don't know if you can see what's happened. I'll exaggerate it. This is what's happened from that lens. It is like bulging towards us. So I'm just going to remove that. And a good straight horizon line helps you do that. So that's that line there. So that's remove the distortion. So just always do that. I think it's just a little thing that can make a big difference to an overall image. And you can see at the top and the bottom now. See what it's done? See there's this white up here. I'll just do this so you can easily see it. There you go. Let's see the white at the top and the bottom. So it's fixed his image, but we're going to have to crop it down now to get rid of those. So whenever I shoot with my wide angle lens, because this is, even with my 14-24, it's a perler. It still gets some distortion. So what I do is I always include a little bit more than I need, because the likelihood is I'm going to have to crop something off. So we'll do that now, just so it's done. Okay. And then I'll give you a quick before and after, because I'll show you. It's only a slight difference, but it's, you know, it's something that I always notice, and it's something that not many photographers do. So let me show you. That's the before, and that's the after. So it's only a small change, but you'll see that we've taken the bend out of the photo. It's just unnatural. And it's what happens just through the very fact that we've used a lens to take the shot. Sorry, just for the silence, I'm just finishing my coffee off in my Pixel Chatter mug. All right, so that sort of fixes the distortion. That's the first thing. As for the exposure and everything and the silhouette effect, I actually like it. And you've got to make a decision. When you do a shot like this, you've really got to decide, if you want a silhouette, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I would say it's a little too dark in the foreground for me, for my liking, but that's my own thoughts. And, it is as simple as probably bringing up the shadows just that little bit. Something like that. Entirely up to you. I would, I'm a big one on bringing the highlights down at the same time if I'm going to increase the shadows, just to give it some more balance. Now the problem we're going to have when you start doing this is you might get some weird stuff going on, so you just got to be careful. I'm going to warm it up a tad, because I think that sun deserves a little bit more of a feature. And then I think I'm going to hit the vibrance slightly. Now I prefer vibrance over saturation. It really does make a nice difference. Whites and blacks, let's just give them a hit, just make sure they're where they need to be. Let's just hit my Option Alt key. The blacks is going to be tricky on this one, because we've already got a lot of the histogram is bunched up to the left. And then let's just add a little bit of contrast to really bring it to life. Okay, so that's sort of my post-processing just on this image here. The good thing about when you have something silhouetted like this is you're not trying to bring out all the detail. The detail is lost in the shadows, done deliberately. Let me just show you the before and the after. Before and after. And hopefully you can start to see what's happening here. Now, from a composition point of view, I like it, except, sorry Ren, except this tree There wasn't much more of it. You probably should have tried to include it. That's my opinion. And the reason I say that is I feel like I've been cheated because I can't see the ends of the tree. And I'm assuming there's not much more of it. Like it probably ended just over here and here. And I know you could have been at your limits as to how far back you could have stood back here. I don't know. And once again, this is about thinking about it in camera. And you might be going, oh, but I wanted the base of the tree to come out at the base of the shot. Well, crop it later. You know, most of these shots, you are just, you're just, you're going to share them online. Unless you're seriously taking a shot to print up on a big, canvas or a big billboard or something. When you're taking these shots, be okay with thinking about what can I crop out later, because there's nothing wrong with that. So I probably would have stood back a bit, got the entire tree in, and then I would have cropped the bottom back in if that's what I wanted to do and made it a semi-pano. Ren says, do you use lens correction? Okay, well, you were slightly out. So make sure when you do your lens correction, and I'll just go back down to lens correction for you. It always puts this grid over the top as you're changing things. And you'll see that you can put these grid lines on your horizon, and that really helps you with when you've got really good horizontal lines in your image to follow, use those as a guide. Or vertical lines for the other way as well, because they tell you how you're going with removing your distortion. There still was a little bit of distortion. You'll see things like this tower here, like there is a tower. See, it's leaning to the right, so that tells me there still is some distortion, but we can get away with that. But if I was to get really picky, I would want to fix that up. And I'll show you what will happen. Okay, that gets it vertical. The problem with getting really picky now, with making that vertical, is I'm going to lose too much of my image. And I'm going to have to crop it. But you can see now that tower is vertical. Okay, so now I've actually removed all of the distortion. So you can see that lens correction never does a complete job. And if I was to now crop those bits out, now I could use content aware fill if I was in Photoshop. It would do a pretty good job because there's not a lot of detail down there. I'm going to bring this top in a bit now because I've done that. So we're still going to have the tree in there, something like that. So, now you can see the distortion's completely gone. So you've got to have a look at, what's going on in my image, and there is always telltale signs to tell you something's not right. Well, not always, most of the time. And if you want your photo to look like someone's just standing there, then what you've got to do, if you want it to look like someone, how do I put this? I'll put that the wrong way. If you want to make it feel like someone is standing there, if you want the viewer to feel like they're standing there, you've got to make it look natural. Once again, I'll show you the before. So this is the before, and you can clearly see the distortion. You can see that tower. Now that I've pointed out, you'll probably see that. And this is the after. Now, I feel like I'm standing there, and I've deliberately cropped that tree in now because you've lost the edges of it anyway, and I think that actually works a bit better. But you can see just a few minor adjustments and tweaks, how it starts to come together. And just be really careful with those types of things, because it will bite you. And I always say to people, don't when you first do an image and you process it, don't just publish it then and there. I know it's exciting these days because I do it too. You finish your image, you want to share it with everybody, so you get it up on your social media. I always say leave it a day or two and then come back and have another look. But have a look at it with a critical eye and go, okay, what else could I fix? What things are wrong? And start looking at things like, and make yourself a checklist even. Sharpening, exposure, vertical lines, horizontal lines, distortion, cropping. Could I crop this better? Spot removal. Could I remove some spots? Is the color right? Is it vibrant enough? Just make a checklist. And so you can sort of start to decide what it is you want to do. Now, just checking the chat box. Always better to take into the cropping after the fact. Yep. And in this example here, that little tower, I could have removed that using the spot removal tool and you'd never know. But because the distortion doesn't matter for the rest of the image, that vertical distortion, you'd never notice because there's no detail. If you had a mountain where you could see all the trees on it, for example, all the trees would be leaning in as well. Now, if you're wondering why that happens, that distortion is not so much lens distortion, but it's like a parallax distortion, and it's because you've tilted the lens up or down typically. So I always say to people, when you're shooting landscape, try and keep your camera level as much as you can, not just the horizon, but also the pitch forward and back. Okay, so if you think about, if you point the lens down, everything's going to lean in from the edges. If you point the lens up, everything's going to lean out. Okay, so, and just go and try that, just so you know. Go and find somewhere with a bunch of trees and point your lens down towards the ground and watch what happens. Point your lens up and watch what happens. So if you want to eliminate having to worry about that, if you want a lower shot, just set your tripod up lower. And I know it's a pain to get down on the ground sometimes. I mean, I've had my tripod so low I'm lying on the ground taking a shot. Just what we've got to do sometimes. All right, what else is in here? Talking about the lenses. Ryan says, would it not be better to just use a spot removal tool? I just said that, yes. That's cool. He said, I've just arrived, so not sure of proving a point. Yeah, we're just talking about removing distortion. Cool. Sounds like you're chatting amongst yourself, which is what it's all about. Besides that, the only other thing I might try, and this is just me now getting creative, is things like doing something with the sky to change it, to make it a bit bluer, because it can look nice. And all I've done then is drag down a gradient filter, by the way, and I'm just changing the temperature on the gradient filter. You know, and you can play with things like the highlights, bring them down slightly. And maybe a bit of dehaze up there. There we go, look at that. That looks nice. So you can see that now I've done a little bit of correction on that. I'm going to do another one from the bottom. Another gradient filter, just drag it up from the bottom. Remember, just hold the shift key down and it will stay for you. It'll stay horizontal. I'm just going to bring the exposure up at the bottom just slightly. I'm trying not to do too much because I don't want the tree to pop out. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another gradient filter from the top. And I'm going to do my classic bend move, which, can anyone guess what it is? Let's drop the exposure on the top and the bottom. You got it. Okay, that's that one. Let's grab another new one and we'll do the same on the bottom. I don't know, you just increase the exposure, but I'm just going to bring it up just a little bit. And I'm going to drop the exposure down there, and that's sort of like a horizontal vignette. Now we need to do some brush adjustments, and this happens quite a lot in images like this. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube or not, but in between all these branches, there's a little bit of haloing going on. So you've got to be careful of that. And that is just a byproduct of this is a JPEG, and I'm pushing it around a fair bit. But, you know, just keep in mind that that's going to happen. So, you know, grab yourself a brush. Oh, what happened to my brush? There he is. And just, you know, you might just try and do a bit of dodging and burning with some exposure stuff. Just try and fix it up a bit, something like that. That'll do. Just doing it rough. Okay. So let's have a look at the before and after. Okay. So this was what we started with, and it was a nice image, right? But would we say we've brought it to life? What do you think? Have we brought this one to life? Bit of processing. And only a few minutes, right? We've fixed the distortion. And you can definitely see the tree there now. See the tree is sort of leaning forward, and here it's actually looks like it's what it should be. So just keep that in mind with your distortion. There's still a fair bit of haloing here that would need to be fixed up. that'll take a bit of work. I won't do that now. But just that's the byproduct when you start pulling and pushing stuff too much. All right, Brian likes it. Lily likes it. Greg likes it. Good stuff. So, I think the good thing about, especially Ren's been coming to Pixel Chatter for a while, haven't you, Ren? And I've watched even in the last few months and, the improvement. And I know you get out a fair bit and shoot. And that's the trick to getting better, is get out a lot and shoot. Ren gets out heaps. And, yeah, it's really good. Now, you'll see over here, I can see a spot too. I can see a couple of spots where we, if I just click the spot removal tool, let's try that tip of Tommy's tip. Visualize spots. Let's click that. Oh, crikey, me bottom bar's popped up. My computer's all jittery again. Here we go. There we go. It doesn't. Funny enough, it doesn't really show up there very well. Let me back this off and see if it comes out. No. Isn't that funny? So I'm going to get rid of that visualize spots though, but I can see a spot just here. So I'm just going to remove it. I can see another one just here. All right, that'll do. So nice shot, Ren. I think, yeah, good shot. Well done. I think you did tell me where that was. Let's jump back into the library. I think it's in the image somewhere. It is sunset at Heron Point. Is there lots of heron birds there? I shot at a place in New Zealand once on the North Island, and there was that many birds there, and I think that's what they were. Was it heron? I think it was heron, and there was that many of them. It was insane. It was just insane. I think it was heron. Maybe I'm wrong. It was like I think it's a New Zealand bird, and the Maoris eat this bird, and it's actually very oily and it's not very nice at all. But I went to this point, and there was just that many birds. It was crazy. It was on the North Island of New Zealand. Does anyone know where I'm talking about? Yeah. Hey, you're welcome, Ren. Good shot, by the way, buddy. I like it. Good stuff. Good to see you getting some great shots. Okay. Next shot. Damon Force Gaming. Sometimes I make virtual copies to apply different crops and other processing ideas to images. Yeah, it's a good idea as well. Just make virtual copies. Copy away. Once again, you can't hurt anything because you're in Lightroom, and it's you're not going to damage anything, so it's all cool. All right, let's just jump into the next image, which is Lillian's. Lillian Sealer from Arizona. Over there with Chance. So Chance's boss is what we're going to say. Sure. Mutton bird. Anthony, you're right. Mutton bird. It's not heron, is it? Mutton bird. Yeah, there was a lot of them. All right, so here's another one. Same sort of effect. Got a silhouette going on. Something straight away distracting me is the light poles and the reflections of the light poles. I'll come to that in a second. Something down here splashing in the water. Let's have a look at it technically, and then let's jump into composition and then post-processing. And, once again, following the same sort of theme of the silhouette. And, this is quite cleverly done because you're using the trees to frame the highlight of the shot, which is the sunrise or sunset. Chance is saying sunrise. So, the colour that's there looks good. So let's have a look at the technical details. ISO 100, that's cool. We've been shooting with a D50-100. And Lily says, I shoot with a Nikon D50-100 with an 18 to 55mm kit lens. And when Chance went to full frame, I got his 55 to 300 4.5 to 5.6 lens. Looks brand new. He didn't use it, obviously. He wants you to get a full frame, but I told him, will I get better at taking photos? Good idea. And you don't like the weight of the large cameras anyway. I would say don't worry about it at this point. Just work on getting out, take as many photos. People say to me, what gear should I buy next? I say buy yourself a trip somewhere amazing. Because, when you have a few days somewhere just taking photos, then you're going to get better. And it's the challenge when you're at home. I know for me, there's not a lot of amazing places for me close by to go and take photos. So it can be a little bit, I don't know, disheartening. Disheartening is the right word. So, you'll go out and you'll try and take a good shot, and it's hard. Is where you go somewhere like to Tassie, or up the Blue Mountains, or I've seen some of the places around the US there, especially around Arizona. You got those amazing rocks, or spend your money that you're thinking about spending. If you thought about upgrading to a full frame camera, it's $2,000-3,000, right, US. Use that money to go to Yosemite National Park, or to what's that place with the moving rocks that go across the water. Go somewhere amazing, and use the money to go and practice your photography somewhere where you've got some amazing landscapes, where when you get home and put them on your computer, you're going to be like, oh yeah, and you're going to make memories and everything. You can when you think about someone like Ansel Adams, what he was shooting with. I mean, even the most basic of digital crop censored cameras, you've probably got more power to take a photo than he did back then. So, yeah, that's my thinking anyway. Alrighty, so D5100, 24mm focal length on the 18-55mm wide angle lens, and there is some distortion here, which I don't know if you can see, is like a dip in the middle. So it's like it's like it's concaved. We've got ISO 100, which is good. Lowest ISO you can go, always very advisable. F7.1, probably could have shot that a little bit higher with that lens. And the reason for that is because you have got some things close to you in the foreground. And so what happens if it's called depth of field. If you're shooting something where you have something right in front of you and something out in the distance here at infinity rather, you need to make sure you've got your aperture wound up a little bit more. So the bigger number you have, the smaller hole you have, and the more depth of field you have, the more that will be in focus. Now, it doesn't matter so much here because you are silhouetting things, and probably it's not going to matter. Now, it also depends if it's windy or not. Here it looks like it was pretty still looking at the water. But if it's windy, you're going to have to keep your shutter speed up, because otherwise you're going to get blurry things because the wind moves things around. And I can see here that you've got a 1/200th of a second shutter speed. Now, you could easily get down to 1/20th of a second at 24mm and still have sharp images. The rule of thumb is never shoot slower than your focal length. So at 24mm, you never really want to shoot lower than 1/20th of a second. Handheld, on a tripod, it's okay. Or if there's things moving, that's going to mean you'll have things that are are blurry if you're not careful. Now, if you were to increase your aperture to f8, you would have had 1/100th of a second. If you then went, so you could keep, you could keep f11 rather. So you could keep going up. You could have gone to f11 or something like that and still had heaps of room to move. So that's why, from a technical aspect, I would say just keep an eye on that. Always think about your aperture in relation to your depth of field, because you might look through your camera's viewfinder and see everything's in focus, and it will be in the viewfinder because your eye is amazing. The human eye is very good at quickly focusing to different distances as you look around. But once you take the camera is going to have a focal point somewhere in it, and the rest is going to be a little bit out of focus. Chances handing the keyboard over to the boss. Very good. So that's cool. So let's jump into the develop. Let's have a look at how we could have improved this shot slightly. I don't know what this is splashing around down here in the water, but I'm finding that distracting. Could be fish, could be a bird that's invisible. I don't know. But certainly, sometimes it's good to wait for those things to disappear out of your shot. Let's start off with the distortion once again. I think that's important. And I'm going to go into... Where will we go? Let's do that. Let's see if we can get it to do the profile correction. Enable profile correction. Let's see what happens. No, because it's JPEG, it's not picking up these lenses. I'll see if I can find it in here. I don't have that one downloaded either. So we're going to get a manual again. By the way, if it's not in your list, you can download the correction. And let's just remove, oops, wrong way. Let's remove some of that distortion. And you're going to get distortion just because of the way cameras work. Now you can see this tree is leaning in. It's the same thing. Just go to vertical. And just fix that up a bit. There we go. And then hit the crop. Let's recrop that. Once again, it's a little thing. And what'll happen is people will look at your photo and go, something's just not right. And they won't be able to pinpoint it. And it'll just be that they can't see what's going on. Now, I would probably crop this down to about there to give it a different sort of a look. That's good. All right, so that's the distortion taken care of. Yep, always, Ryan's asked, would you shoot the lowest ISO? That's my mantra. Have your ISO as low as it can go. All right. Pulling some highlights back here, not too much. Looks like you might have already done that, which is good. All right. Bit of a shadow increase, only a little bit, not much. Yeah, you've already processed this a bit, haven't you? It's pretty good. Pretty good. Let's just get these, what's some blacks happening, give it a bit more depth. Oh, I'm going to bring that back down. Bit of clarity, let's get some clarity in there. And all I would probably change for me is I'm going to grab a gradient filter and I'm just going to make the sky at the top there a bit bluer. You get really washed out skies when you're shooting into the sun for some reason. So from a post-processing, I wouldn't do much. Same as with Ren's image. Looks like you've already done a bit of that already, which is cool. I would definitely get rid of these distracting things. See these light poles here? Let me zoom in a bit more. See these light poles? Now this is something that, you know, has been debated by photographers forever. Do you leave them? Do you delete them? To me, they're ugly. They serve a purpose, but do your best to get rid of them. And it's going to be hard on an image like this because you're trying to keep your skies looking sort of natural. And it's not going to like this. Try to find something that works. So just move things around until you find something that works. I'm just going to increase the size a bit. It's having a hurry. My computer's freezing up. It's not happy. You can see that didn't do a very good job. We're going to undo that one. Come on, computer. Yeah, so you might have to go through bit by bit and do it, but I would suggest you get rid of these things as much as you can. Now, you've got to make sure as you do it that you also get rid of the other ones. And yeah, I'm just using the spot removal tool. I personally would do this in Photoshop with the clone tool is what I would use, because it's not going to be easy to remove using the spot removal tool and retain all that beautiful detail. You can do it, but it's going to take a bit of work. But as you can see straight away, we're getting rid of that one. Let's get rid of the other one. So I don't know if you've got Photoshop or not, but that's what I would use. One of the things, if you don't, is just sort of try and repair the bit that's in each colour. And then, like, I tried to do it all in one hit and I didn't like it. It was too hard. So just do a bit at a time. And then you can sort of then move each bit around to suit as you need it. You know, so it's going to look. There's going to be a few traces there of what I've left behind. You can sort of start to get the picture. But make sure that when you do it, I've seen this mistake made before, that when you start removing things in the sky and you've got water, make sure you remove them down here too. So you'll see that this pole here in particular, which I'm doing a terrible job of cloning out, this pole in particular has got a reflection here. So you want to make sure you get rid of that as well. Okay, you'll see there's one here. Get rid of it as well. You'll see this big one over here. Same thing. I'm struggling to do this because my camera, it's hard to explain, but I've got some lag going on. So as I'm trying to remove it, my my computer's doing something different. So I won't try to do that anymore. It's getting too difficult. But you get the picture, right? Try and remove that stuff out because, I mean, straight away I can see that looks nicer without it. Didn't do a very good job of that one, did it? But get rid of it all. Same with all these spots. See all these spots in the water? I don't know what they are, but you can just remove them. Just use your spot removal tool and just get rid of them. Okay, because it'll take you 5 minutes and it'll make your photo look that little bit better. Okay, so these are the little things that make the difference. I'm not going to do them all because we'll be running out of time. All right. But otherwise, I think it's a great shot. Really well done, Lily. I think just, you know, I don't know what this is down here. Did you tell me what that was down there? You love taking mirror images. Awesome. I don't think you've told me what this is down here. A baby turtle. Yeah. So I would wait until it stopped creating this ripple effect, because you know the smooth water looks really good. That's just distracting, and it doesn't add to the photo because you can't see what it is. It's like someone's thrown a rock in at the same time you took a photo. In an instance like this, I know the sun's going down quickly and you've got to get the shot, but you know usually that situation will change in a matter of seconds. You know, that baby turtle will go away or something. Oh, it's a pump return. Okay. Oh, I saw a baby turtle. Okay, pump return. I'm trying to work out. Okay, pump return the lake. Okay. So if that is the case, then I would then try and clean that up in Photoshop, just get rid of it, or move to a different, you know, maybe to the right-hand side of this tree or something. I don't know what else was there. But I love the way you framed the shot up. I would just spend a bit of time learning how to do a bit of cleaning up afterwards to get rid of some of this other stuff. Yeah, good shot though. Well done. I'll just show you my before and after. I know I haven't done a huge amount of changes, but just so you can see the difference it makes with that distortion in particular and a bit of cropping. So that was the before and that's the after. Before and after. And just take note of the sky at the top. Notice how by putting a gradient filter up there and pulling the colours back down to get rid of the warmth out of them brings me that nice blue that you expect to see in the sky. So just some little things. If I had more time, I'd go through and I'd clone out all those things, but it would be difficult to do with my computer having a hernia. So, but well done, Lily. I think you've taken a good shot there. I think everyone will agree that was a nice, well caught shot. All right. Now, what do we have left? We have one more. This one's from Dan McPhail in Brisbane. I don't know if Dan's in the chat box or not. This is the first time Dan has sent something in to me, which is cool. Dan might have a different username on here, so it's quite often, I don't know who's who. I know that Photography Australia says Greg. There's George. G'day, George. All right, so this is Dan McPhail's. Another beautiful shot. Definitely been processed. I can tell by the colours that he has done a fair bit of processing here. And, you know, it's good. I find overall, for me, it's a little bit too blue. I'll come to that in a second. But it's a great location. I mean, have a look at the location. Let's do this. Break it down in three areas again. Once again, technically, this was shot with a Sony ILCR 7R with a 17-35mm lens. Shot at 17mm, ISO 50, 10 seconds at f11. So he said, Dan says, I've been an avid collector of images for a while now and have followed you on YouTube for over a year. I thought I would send a couple of images for you to have a look at and see if you'd like to include them in your critique segment. Absolutely. He said, I live north of Brisbane and frequently travel an hour or two to try and capture a good scene and a good time with great light, and delves into many forms of photography, but really loves being around water. It says, I really appreciate the effort you put into production for YouTube. Please keep up the great work. Thank you, Dan. So yeah, great shot. Not a lot I'm going to be able to critique here. I love a couple of things about this shot. From a technical point of view, ISO 50, 17mm, f11, 10 seconds, perfect. Couldn't have done much more there, so I think that's good. I think you've captured some cloud movement, which is nice. I love the reflection of the sun in the water. Now you'll see that this is blown out where the sun is and where the sun streak is. Very hard to avoid in this situation, but it works. Right, it works in this image. I'm going to jump into the develop module quickly because we are running out of time. I'm just going to make a few tweaks just so you can see the differences that could be made. This one here, I'm just going to warm it up just a tad. I think it's just a tad too blue. So I'm just going to warm it up a tad. So if I just show you the before and after of that, I only made a very small difference. Oh. So before and after. Now, what has happened? Yeah, just a slight warm up. Okay. My other thing that I would do, just my tip here, see this here, and there's not much you can do to fix it now. This here is awesome, right? This on the bottom right hand corner, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's my big cursor. It's an awesome bit of foreground. Just move it in onto this intersection here. Okay, so I can't do it post-production. I'm going to lose something. I'll try, but I'm going to take the sun too far out. See that? The sun, I'm losing the sun. I'll show you what it does when you really focus on putting the foreground in the right spot. So I'm gonna lose. I would not crop the image this way. This is just a demo. I'm gonna undo this crop, but I just want to show you by bringing the foreground right up onto that point. It just makes such a difference. So when you're composing, make sure that you think about that. It's just a bit too close to the edge for me, and it would have been easily avoidable if you just moved to the right, just that tad. And I'm being picky, but I think that would be better. The other thing is, yeah, Damon Force has just said exactly what I'm going to say. I would remove these branches just leading out. Now, if you had moved to the right slightly, you probably would have removed those out because you can turn your camera more to the left, and this foreground interest will lead you to the sun. Beautiful image. Now the other thing that's going on here that you just need to be wary of, I don't know if you can see these spots here, this is all sun glare. See these spots? There's a heap of them. It's sun glare, and so when you're shooting into the sun, very difficult to avoid getting sun glare on your lens. And different lenses handle it in different ways, and that's when you're paying more for a lens, typically that's the sort of thing you're going to get. But I would work relatively diligently to remove that sun glare spots, and I'd do that. You could probably do that in Lightroom, but it would be easier in Photoshop. So I would definitely do that. A little trick that can work well, especially here, you see how you've got this definite defining line, is to grab a shot of this after the sun goes down, just a long exposure so it's light enough, and then blend it in. Then blend it into your final shot. My dog's going off because someone's at the door. But that gives you a bit of an idea. But otherwise, beautiful shot. I love it. I love it. I think, and this is what I'm talking about. Go to places like this, and I would love this if this was near my house. I would go and shoot it for sure. But otherwise, Dan, I think you've done a great job. The only other thing that you could do is maybe a bit more detail here. I can see a bit of noise in this image, so I don't know how it's been processed. Considering it's ISO 50, I'm surprised there's that much noise in it. So I'd say it's just because of the JPEG that I've got. But if I go to 100%, what's 100% look like? It's a decent size image. Yeah, it's just that I'm zooming in. I've got a Retina screen as well, so it's it points all of that out. But what a nice image, eh? I mean, let me just press the L button, which I've showed you before in a tip. How nice does that look? Yeah, very good job. So it's good to see some new people sending images in. Appreciate that. Let me just jump back over here now. All right. Hopefully you've learnt a bit from that today. Just think about, so I guess today's really been a bit of a theme, shooting into the sun, which is good. Just think about, when you're doing that, how much of a silhouette you want. Think about the effects of shooting into the sun is going to have things like you're going to have lens flare, which is going to be difficult. You're going to have overexposed areas. You're going to have to really work a little bit harder to fix those things up. And if you want to bring detail out in the foreground, you're going to have to boost shadows somewhere, or things like that. The other thing that there was a fair bit of distortion in today's images. I even think that last one has a little bit as well. So be really careful to just look for that, and even if you're not sure, go into the distortion correction area, or the transform, whatever. What do they call it in Lightroom? I can't remember. What do they call it? Lens correction. Go into the lens correction, go into manual, and just move the distortion slider backwards and forwards, and just see what it does. And if you can make it look better, then it's obviously got some distortion that you've removed. It's very difficult to replicate in camera, even with the best of cameras and lenses, what the eye can see. And so software is being built so you can take out all the side effects of lenses and cameras, and and get the best result. All right. So now's a good time, by the way, to share your social pipes. If you want anyone to follow you on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, if you've got something that you'd like to share, do so in the chat box now. If there's any questions, whack them in there. I'm going to wind them up. Just a reminder too, I had a couple of people ask me that where could they send something, and I didn't really want to give out my home address because, of course, giving out my home address on YouTube would let everyone know where all my camera gear was. Not for you honest folks, but for the dishonest folks. So I did open up a P.o.Box, which is in the description down below if you want to send something through. I am going to, on the wall behind me, I'm just in the midst of doing some renovating. That bookcase is going to go. We're going to put a map of the world up there, and I'm going to stick stickers on there from wherever you are. So we're going to do a worldwide sticker board is my idea, and start to really map out where everybody is. I think that's going to be kind of cool. Alrighty, let's see, what have we got here? Panorama crop, maybe. Yeah, it is a sort of pano now. You could crop the top down a little bit, but you'd lose the, once again, I would have shot a pano at this place for sure. But the particular image that's been sent me, if I crop anything, I'm going to lose too much. Let me have a look. Lovely composition, like this shot. I'm trying to keep it. The comments are going faster than I can read them. Sometimes I take that images that naturally you can't move to get rid of distraction, so I make notes on images. Yeah, sometimes you can't move, and that's the thing. I always say to people, I'm sitting here behind a computer. I don't know, if you could have moved to the right. Maybe you couldn't have. Maybe there's a crocodile there. I don't know. Anthony says, picked up some good tips, like the previous button. Awesome. Lillian, you were going to take some classes soon. Awesome. And classes are good, but you can't beat practice. And so I always say to people, say to me, what can I do to learn to be better at photography? Well, first of all, pick something you're passionate about, because it's like anything. You can't be good at all the different sports, like football, soccer, cricket, hockey, swimming, tennis, and they're all sports, right? So in photography, you've got landscape, portrait, macro, black and white. You've got all film, you've got digital, you've got all these different genres of photography. Pick one that you're really passionate about and just go and hone that craft, because what you learn, you can then apply to other things. If you get asked to do a portrait show, I'm actually terrible at portrait photography. It's just, now that sounds funny because I actually have shot weddings in the past. I've been a wedding photographer. I won't do that again. but I'm not a great portrait photographer. And the reason I feel that is that it just takes a different set of skills to landscape. And I love the time I can take, put my camera on a tripod and really think through my shot. And I think through my shot before I hit the button. So when I hit the button, I'm making what it is I've visualized. I'm not taking a shot and then having a look and go, is that good? I'm typically making what I've already visualized I'm going to make. So it's good to do that. Hi Ben, I see you mostly do landscape photos. Do you also comment on other genres? Happy to, and I have in the past, but I'm a landscape photographer. So, but I'm happy to. If you want to send them in, I'll give it my best shot. But as long as you take my advice with a grain of salt, because, like I said, I'm not great with other things in particular. But I do understand my way around a camera, so I could probably get away with it. So Greg is just sharing his Facebook page. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Ren. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Damon Force. Ryan says, where do we send images? Thank you for reminding me, Ryan. Ben at on3legs.com. Just email them. 3 images, 3,000 pixels on the longest edge is ideal. Just in JPEG is fine. And shoot those through to Ben at on3legs.com. Please don't shoot me Flickr links or links that are going to expire, like WeTransfer or Dropbox links, because by the time, what I do is, as your emails come in, I stick them in a folder and then I go and get the images before the show. And quite often the links have expired. So please send me 3 images in your email. Just attach them in your email. I promise never ever to publish them anywhere else except for in the show. And I'll always make sure I credit you as we go through them in the show. Once I'm finished with these images, by the way, I delete them off my drive. So they're gone forever. I don't keep them. So you don't have to worry about that either. So send them through that. Also on that note, if you've got your kit that you want to share, like we saw Ren's today, make sure you shoot that through to me as well. Give you an opportunity to do something different. I just got an SMS from my partner in crime for the Tassie tour, and he said, just booked another for Cradle 2. So we are running out of spots. So how cool is that? Just booked another. I don't know if you can see the message at the top there. That's Michael. That's my partner for the Cradle Mountain Workshop. Somebody else just booked, so I don't know which one of you it is, but we'll see you there. I'll find out shortly. And now 43 still learning. Good stuff, Spanner. Look at people like mushrooms. I don't think people would appreciate that. When's my next jetty shoot? Who knows? I haven't been out shooting really since WA, and I need to book a trip. I'm getting the DTs. Like I said, I've been really busy. I've got something huge happening with my business next year, and I've had to work really hard to get things ready. But we're almost there. For those of you that don't know, I have a business that I run called Max My Profit. You may have seen me on both. Some people have, where we help business owners, and we've got something huge happening that we've just been working on, me and my business partner. So looking forward to that. Anyway, all right. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed today's show. Just a reminder, if you're not already, you can follow me on my social media pipes. Here they are. They're the 2 that I'm most active on. And until next week, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Until next week. What am I doing next week? Am I here next week? Yes, I think I am. But I will be away after that, I think, for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to Fiji, and I'll be doing scuba diving, and I might try some underwater photography. We'll see. I've tried that before. It's really hard. But anyway, until next week, get out there and take some photos. Thanks for everything. Really appreciate you coming and tuning in every week and following me and hitting the like button, all those things. Makes this all worthwhile. Thanks for sending the photos in, gang, and I will talk to you next week. Cheers.